Community leaders have joined together to bring one message. If you take to the streets to protest the decision, make it peaceful.
We're talking about the decision the DA is expected to release later on today, 2:30 this afternoon, whether Officer Matt Kenny will be charged criminally in the shooting death of Tony Robinson. Two of the leaders we just referred to are joining us now. Bishop Harold Rayford of the African American Council of Churches and Greg Jones, President of the Dane County NAACP. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning.
Our pleasure.
It is, without question and indisputably, a historic day in our community. Let me start with you, Mr. Jones. What do you expect? I don't want to have, what are you expecting here? What do you sense is the mood in our community right now?
Well, I think the mood is surrounded by two things. An awakening to injustice and an awareness to be engaged in solutions that move our community forward. I think as we look at this afternoon's decision, we don't know exactly what to expect, but I think the community is anxious to hear how do we move forward from this event.
Bishop, what are you telling young people should they decide to join today's protest?
You know, I want young people to look back on this protest fondly as a time that they stood up for what they believed in, a time that they participated in something positive. But we want them to be safe. We don't want to see any young people get arrested. We don't want to see them get into any trouble that will create additional hardships on themselves and on their families. So participate after school with your parents' support and approval, but do so peacefully and safely.
We had Madison Superintendent Jennifer Cheatham in earlier this morning and talking about this as a teachable moment. What is the lesson that you feel, Bishop? That is there a lesson that you've already taken away from this?
The lesson that I've taken away from this is that this is more than just the tragic death of Tony Robinson Jr. This is about disparities. This is about inequities and the pain that you see on the faces of people in Baltimore and in South Carolina and in other places. That same pain is here in Madison. So we are not removed from those things. And it's important that everyone avail themselves to the information to understand what is really going on in the African American community that will cause us to rise up and to come together. And that's what the Black Leadership Council is, a collaboration of African American organizations that have come together to say, let's do together what we have been trying to do historically individually.
Gentlemen, regardless of the decision that comes out today, how do you begin the healing process? Because you can't put a Band-Aid on it. This is bigger than a Band-Aid, and you've got to get to the root of it. How do you begin that process? It's going to be a long one.
And I think that's a good question, Charlotte, because the groups that came together to develop the Black Leadership Council focused on two issues: systematic and structural issues that are leading to discrimination, marginalization, and poverty. Those members who sat around the table and looked deeply at what are some of the causes are now ready to put forth some solutions that will move our community forward. One of the elements of this movement I think was important to me was the introduction of the word prosperity. And if you look at what it can do for the entire community, all of us can benefit and make Madison and Dane County #1 in the eyes of the world again.
There were some people who, and Bishop, you just referenced, you know, the situations people see in Baltimore, I've seen in Ferguson. We had Reverend G on here earlier, talked about back when the Tony Robinson Jr. shooting happened, that Madison's not those communities reaction-wise. Can we assume maybe that we will not see the same reaction, whatever the decision comes out today, or can we not make that assumption? Have we worked enough on the front end to try and prevent that from happening?
I think we certainly have tried. I learned from that, never say never. But I think we are trying, we are talking, and there won't be a quick fix, you know. There won't be, okay, let's get through 3 days and then things can go back to normal, because normal is not acceptable. So we have worked. The Black Leadership Council, the cities of Madison, the school districts have all worked together to try to avoid those things that we've seen on television. But the dialogue has to become more than dialogue. It has to become action. And that's what the Black Leadership Council is all about, making sure that after this week, after these next few days, that we create the changes that are necessary.
Let me just add on that one that I think one of the important factors here in Madison has been a collaboration at many, many different levels.
Yes.
And organizations coming together, established organizations with long-term histories. The United Way leading a discussion about law enforcement and community relations or community policing, the school district doing what it can, as well as the mayor's office. So I think what you see in Madison is a recognition that it is a community's response. Although these individual efforts take place, it's the community, including the media. One of the things that I think was most important is the follow-up of members of the Black Leadership Council to the event at East Washington and East High School, and the message that came out of that, which was so much grounded and supported by parents, was a significant piece of my opinion of what Madison can do collectively to go forward.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this morning, and thank you for the positive contributions you make to our community.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.